Well, this is going. It's pretty slow. My dad always used to say I was half-assed. I told him that that's pretty good, that the story of the tortoise and the hare, slow and steady wins the race. He'd just walk off shaking his head and mumbling, so I don't think he appreciated good logic. This is slower than I'd like. If it was going twice as fast, it'd still be slow. But I've got one side in, and what's going on is this polytack just doesn't seem to want to penetrate the weave on this fabric. I gave a bunch of this fabric to a friend of mine to use as repairs on his airplane a few years ago, and last summer my friend mechanic was here doing annuals on his airplane, on the airplanes, and he did some work on my friend's airplane. He used the fabric that I gave him for some repairs, and he was having a hard time getting it to stick, and he come and got some different fabric from me, and I think I dug out some of the new stuff and give to him. So we thought, I don't know, he wasn't getting able to stuff to penetrate. I asked if maybe that stuff had been pre-shrunk, and that's kind of what we walked away with, is maybe it'd been pre-shrunk. Well, that's what I was worried about with this stuff, that maybe that's pretty sure this is the same fabric that I give my friend, and so that's what I was worrying about with it, was maybe it had been pre-shrunk. I put it on here. Like I said, even though the polytack has been thinned down a little bit with some MEK, it still was hard to get it to penetrate here. Now the book shows, and the video from Polyfiber said just to put it on whatever the backing material is, press the fabric into it and rub it to get it to come through. A lot of the videos that I watched of people doing it, they were putting glue down and then putting the polyfiber down, rubbing it in, and then putting more polytack on the outside of it. Well, the book and the video say not to do that, because then the stuff on the outside flashes off and gets hard, and the stuff underneath then doesn't flash off. The solvents don't vaporize out of it, so you wanted a thinner layer of it. I got the one side done on here and got it glued really good all the way around. And one of the things they recommended in the Polytack video was to go ahead and do the initial shrink on your first side, so that when you bring this stuff, the second side around, it's got a good, more firm surface to bond to push into. As otherwise you start pushing on this and it's loose, and it can go down around that corner, and then you wind up with divots in there where it gets glued in. So I did that. I went ahead and set the iron to 250 degrees and did the pre-shrink, the first shrink, and that stuff shrunk up nice and tight. So it's not pre-shrunk. That's not what is going on there with it. Well, anyway, it's ready to go. It's all on there, so the next stage is to go ahead and bring this stuff around, measure it out, and tie it in, glue this side down. Well, the fabric's all glued on here now. This is going to be the outside. Of course, the fabric's still pretty loose on there. The inside, I've done my pre-heat on it. I've got it glued all the way around, and it's always kind of disconcerting to see this and see all the wrinkles and everything in it, and how loose the fabric is on this side. But then it's gratifying when you put the iron on it and it actually does work and tighten up. I suppose guys that work with this stuff all the time don't even think about it, but when you don't, you always worry that you got it on too loose or something like that. Probably just as much of a danger of getting it on too tight. So I had to let the glue set up for a while longer here on this bottom piece and the sides where I glued this front piece on. It's take a while for it to all flash out and harden up real good. And then we'll take the iron to it and iron out all the wrinkles and try to straighten everything up. And then there'll be tapes going across these pieces here, a tape all the way around the outside, and then there'll be a gusset here over this handle And I'm thinking I might put another gusset here on the outside because that handle stuff is on the inside in that. It's all covered up and everything, but there's a possibility of the fabric pushing into some of that stuff. So anyway, that's the plan, man. Well, I got that door lower half covered. Well, I got the cover on it. This is the back side here, the inside, and the outside. I was almost sure I was going to have to take that all off there and start over again. This fabric was just I don't know, had big sags in it, big holes, pockets, soft spots in it here, plus was sagged all the way down, and big wrinkles in along here, and I couldn't pull the wrinkles out because it would go the wrong way. Anyway, I went ahead and glued it all up. Of course, glued it here on the top, and then glued the side here and the bottom, and then put it on this side, and that it didn't shape up the way that I originally thought it was, but to help pull the, I started trying to heat this to pull the wrinkles out of it, and I could see that wasn't going to work. You really don't want to heat the glued sections after you heat the body, because it puts a lot of tension on it, and when you heat to stretch this sections here, that melts the glue and it can pull all loose. But I kind of did that, took some of the wrinkles out, and then I had to heat this to get it to get the rest of them out, and I still wound up with a couple little wrinkles in there, but they're pretty flat. So anyway, I heated this up 250 the first time, and it tautened up a little bit, but it still had sags in it. Like I said, I was sure I was going to have to tear it off and start over again, and I went over it at 350, and it tightened right up. So it came out okay. It came out pretty good. It's got some spots here that I don't really like too much, a couple of these wrinkles, but this get tape on it and we'll kind of cover that up. They'll show through a little bit, of course, so it's not going to be a Oshkosh show plane job, but it actually is not so bad as I thought it was going to be. Now it's time to mix up some polybrush. And the polybrush mixes 3-to-1 with reducer, 3 parts of polybrush to 1 part of reducer. So here's my reducer, here's my polybrush. I've taken this and shook it up, but I'm probably going to have to take the paint mixer stick there and clean all the crap out of, or get all the solids out of the bottom of it. We'll see how it is when I get it opened up. Stick the mixing stick in there. Actually, there's no solids in the bottom of it. It's pretty well shook up. Got some mixing cups here that I bought, and these are real handy. This one has the scales on the side of it. There's one for 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 2-to-1, 2-to-1 to 0.5. It does have ounces and stuff here, and in a numbered scale here. And this cup is tapered, so this scale is not linear. It has to adjust because of the taper. But anyway, it does have a 3-to-1, which is just right for a poly brush. So that's what I'm going to use. I'll dump some poly brush in there, 3 parts of it. And I'm going to start, let's see, well, we'll start out with, let's say, 3 parts of poly brush, and we'll use that much to start with. I can always mix more. I wasn't very happy with my first coat of poly brush on there. It went on okay, and you kind of see there it got some penetration through there some, but they were just dust, just little spots, motes, dust motes all over it. And those are, you can't really sand anything out on this stuff. It's plastic. So I saturated some rags and NEK and wiped it all off, and we'll start over again. Anyway, I'll let this stuff flash off, and I'm going to turn the air filter on in here, and I'll go get some tack cloths, and I'll tack that stuff down before I do it again. I'd washed it down real good with MEK and stuff, but it just had little spots all over it, dust, the hairs and stuff I got out of it. Some of them are light colored and you couldn't hardly see, but I was able to get most of those out of there, but they're just little dust spots all over, so we'll try it again. Alright, we're going to try this again. I've got a tack cloth here, and I wiped this down and with MEK, and then I turned the overhead filter on, blower on for half hour or a little longer in the shop here, and let it blow air around, hopefully filtered some of it out, the dust out. I'm going to go over this with the tack cloth now. Try to pick up maybe little bits of fuzz on there. Now I've got some fuzz on here from the threads that are frayed out on it, so I'm going to get a razor and cut those off first, and I'm going to turn the camera off in case I cut into the fabric and have an explosion of some kind. I got my coat of poly brush on there, and that went on pretty good. First I just light quick coat, kind of like what they showed in the video, and it's a lot better than what it was. So we'll let it dry for 30 minutes or so, and then we'll flip it over and do the other side. Anyway, that does look a little better. Did work a little better. Okay, that side's done. Now that should be a lot better than what I had before. Let that dry, and then I can start taping.